We're talking about forgiveness tonight. I have walked in many, many cemeteries in my life as a pastor. I've been to some to bury people that only the Lord would know where they were, and I was very glad that He knew where they were, for that way getting up morning, they'd get up. I would not remember where they were, way on the backside somewhere behind an ancient church. And walking through cemeteries, I have observed what is written on tombstones. Now, I don't have a morbid curiosity about what's written on tombstones, but all you know, you learn a lot by just reading what's on tombstones. For instance, over in England, there is a grave where a man by the name of John Yeast is buried. And written as his epitaph is, under his name, is, "Pardon me for not rising." Across the road from where Dolores and I will be buried in the city cemetery in Crystal Springs, Mississippi, there is a grave marker. And on this marker it says, "Pause, stranger, as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I." Pause, stranger, as you walk by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you will be. Prepare therefore to follow me. Some wag came by with chalk and wrote under that, "To follow you, I'm not content until I know which way you went." As I have looked at these epitaphs through the years and read them with a great deal of interest, I came to one that has probably meant the most to me of all I've seen. It had the name of the person and the year born and the year died. By the way, life is more than a dash between two dates on tombstone. Underneath was one word, and that word was forgiven. That's one word. Forgiven. If we really recognize ourselves at our best self, beyond all the facades and the mirrors and the smoke, if we really get down to who we are, we want to be forgiven. And as we come to look at the text tonight, very familiar, we find that it is a wonderful example of what it means to be forgiven by the Father. When you turn to Luke chapter 15 and look beginning with verse 11, you will discover that it is a parable of the prodigal son, or sons. In my opinion, a better designation of that parable would be the parable of the forgiving and loving Father. As you read Luke chapter 15, you will discover that it is a chapter in which Jesus is talking about lostness and foundness. Lost sheep, lost coin, lost son. You will also discover in this story beginning in verse 11, we call it the parable of the prodigal son. But when you read it carefully all the way through, you will discover that it is the parable of the prodigal sons. You see, the younger son left his heart at home and took his body away, and the older son left his body at home and sent his heart away. Now when you look at this parable, it is a parable for those of us who can find great meaning as believers. But when literary people have looked at this parable, they have called it one of the greatest short stories in all literature. Now you know what a parable is. You've heard it since you were enrolled in the children's department in Sunday school. A parable is a heavenly story with an earthly meaning. Jesus unpacks what he wants to reveal to the people to whom he is speaking by telling them stories that they would be familiar with. And that's what preaching is all about. Opening the text so that we may understand the truth of God's Word. It is designed for us as believers to be encouraged, to be informed, to be enlightened, to find greater appreciation for the revelation of God through His Word. Amen. I really would be disturbed if after I had preached, something happened that I heard about some time ago. Two ladies were leaving the church house after the morning worship service. And one turned to the other one and said, "You know, that really was a wonderful sermon, wasn't it?" And her friend replied, "Yes, it must have been. I didn't understand anything about it." I want you to understand what the truth is tonight in the text that we'll look at. Jesus said, as you notice in verse 11, a certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the portion of good that falls to me." So the father divided to them, to him, and to his older son as well, to them his livelihood or their inheritance. Now, what this parable is saying, and we'll get into it, put flesh on it, if you will. This younger son is saying to his father, "As far as I'm concerned, I want to receive from you what I would get when you die." And there is the undertone of this younger son saying to his father, "Don't matter to me more about you, old man. I want now what you will give, what I will receive when you die. So just give it to me now." And the father did that. The father did that because there is a sense of acceptance of his son. He accepts us as we are in order to lead us to become what he wants us to be. One of the kings of England, when he was having his portrait painted, said to the painter, "Paint me warts and all." God loves us, warts and all. One of the great clues of the Word of God, of the life of Christ, is that we don't have to audition for the love of God. He loves us, not because of or in terms of indebtedness to us. He loves us because of who we are, where we are, in order that we may become what He has designed us to be. So the Father gave the inheritance to His son. Now the scripture says that the younger son took all that he had and went into a far country. We don't know where the far country was. Well, the best definition that I've made is that the far country is anywhere and everywhere anyone tries to get along without God. Far country can be in the Stemley community. Far country can be in your house. The far country can be where you go on Saturday night. One man said that a lot of people come to church on Sunday to pray for a bad harvest of the oats they sown on Saturday night. You see, the far country, again, is anywhere anyone seeks to live without God. So in the far country. And the parable continues by saying that he just wasted his life. He wasted what he had. And the old King James says in riotous living. New King James says in prodigal living. The idea is that he just threw it away. Threw it away. My grandmother, whom we call Mammy, would come to about right here on me, where she's still living. I loved her dearly. Didn't get long to love her because she died when I was a child. But I remember my Mammy. And I remember that she would raise a garden every year. We lived on a farm, but some part of that land was set aside for my grandmother to have a garden. And she would raise all kinds of vegetables in that garden. One of the vegetables that she raised was the vegetable that we would call crowd peas. And she would harvest those peas and shell them and cook them, and they were so good. By the way, I was looking forward to hearing about your breakfast on Saturday. I leaned over to your pastor and I said to him, that's a fat-free breakfast, isn't it? He replied, no, it's a free fat breakfast. My grandmother would cook those peas and other vegetables and make them delicious. One of the things that she did that I remember so well was that she would take those pods of peas and that were the best on the vines, and she would let them dry. And she would pick those, and then she would bring them to the porch, long L-shaped porch, sit in a rocking chair, and rock and shell those dried peas into the apron on her lap. And when she was finished, she would put the husk and the hull over to the side. But when she would finish, she would go to the corner of our porch, where there was usually a breeze. And she would take the corner of her apron, and she would toss those peas into the air, and the wind would drive the husk away. They were, are you ready? They were gone with the wind. And she would catch the peas. This story of Jesus is the epitome of many lives that I've seen in my life. Men and women, young and old, who have taken their lives and just tossed it into the air. Amen. Find that sin drives it away. Yes. He is saying that this young man took what he had, what his father had given him. It's talked about in terms of money or wealth. You can talk about it in terms of ability. You can talk about it in terms of commitment. You can talk about it in terms of dedication. You can talk about it in all kinds of manner and manners. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the willingness of some people to simply just toss what he's given away in their lives. They don't sing like the choir sang. I would really appreciate the choir singing for us tonight. I heard not only what you sang, but I watched you and heard how you sang it. You sang it because you believed it. And it was expressed in the manner in which you sang. Now this young man, he tossed his living away. And Jesus went on with his parable and said that when he had spent everything he had, there arose a famine in the land. There was as much famine in this young man's life as there was in the land. And so he became very hungry. And because he was so hungry, he went to a citizen of that country, according to Jesus, a non-Jew, if you will. And that man gave him a job. And his job was to feed the pigs. It would be important for us, if we had the time, to understand the background of a Jewish man feeding pigs. Wow. It just was a part of the parable of Jesus to show how far away this young man was from the Father, from his heritage, from his home, from his faith, from all that was valuable, all that was important in his life. He had sunk this low, and Jesus is pointing it out by talking about how he went to feed the pigs. Not only did he feed the pigs, but he fed them something that he himself would eat. Now you get the picture. More than likely it was the fruit of the carob tree that would have, it would be like a peanut, but similar to that, a walnut or hickory nut, whatever. And what he would do, he would open the husks of that carob pod and take out the kernel inside and feed it to the pigs. But Jesus is saying in this parable, as you look deeper into the words, that the young man did not even eat the kernel of the pod, but he had to chew on the husk. He was so destitute and so far away from the Father that he had to eat in that manner. But one day, Jesus said he came to himself. He came to himself. He was in the far country where the trails went out and in, someone said. As I said earlier, where people try to live without God. But he came to himself, and he said he began to talk to himself. What a message he gave himself for the foot. He said, the Father's servants have more to eat than this, He talks about food like a flood in the language of the parable. And his stomach was growling so, I wonder where he heard himself speak. But he said, I will arise, I will get up, and I will go to my Father. And I will say to the Father, Father, I've sinned against heaven and you. And please forgive me. I've been a sinner. I've sinned before you. And I need forgiveness. Now, one of the wonderful parts of the parable is, according to Jesus, that when he spoke to himself and he came to himself, as you look at our text, he immediately got up and started home. I've often wondered what he told the man who was hiring him that he left the pigs in the field, just left the pigs in the field. But whatever it was, he started back home. And what he was saying to himself became something of a mantra. And I could almost hear it. I wandered far away from God. Now I'm coming home. Coming home. Coming home. Now I'm coming home. It was almost like that staccato beat of what he was saying. Father, I've sinned. I've sinned. Oh, Father, I've sinned against heaven, and I've sinned before thee. You can almost hear him as he's walking, repeating what he wants to say to Father. He gets almost home. The Father who'd been waiting and watching, even as he's waiting and watching for you. The Father was waiting and watching for his Son to come home. He was anticipating that his boy would come home. And he saw him coming. I have an idea that he began to look. And he saw this beragged figure over there, wearing not the clothes that he left in, not the luxurious fabric that he wore when he left, but he's wearing rags, tattered, dirty, barefoot. And he walked like his son. And he begins to look closer and he discovers, that's my boy! And he's coming home. He's coming home. And he's waiting for you. He's waiting for you as well. You see, one step toward the Lord, and you meet him already. Just one effort on your part, one willingness on your part to open your life by faith in Jesus Christ, and you can be welcomed home by the Father. The Father ran to meet him and began to hug him. The old King James said he fell on his neck. I've never seen anybody fall on the neck, but that's okay. I understand what he's saying. He's saying that he began to hug him and embrace him. And the Scripture says that he kissed him, and the Scripture in the language of the New Testament says that he kissed him again and again and again. And he called his servants. And he said to his servants, look at the text. He said to his servants, bring a robe and put it on him. The best robe, and put it on him. You see, the marks of the far country had to be covered. And we sing, what can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And the robe is a symbol of the covering of his sin by the love of the Father. And the Father said, put a ring on his hand. A ring was a signal, a symbol of being a son. The son will ring. And the Father is saying, you have become born again as my son. And here is a ring that signifies that. And then he said, we're going to kill the fatted calf. The one that's been kept and fed and been prepared for a festive celebration. We'll kill the fatted calf and we'll have a feast. And the Scripture says, and they began to be merry. Ring the bell to heaven. Ring the bell to heaven. For someone has come to Jesus. Amen. I like the movie The Wonderful Life. You've seen it Christmas over and over. The angel is hoping by his kind knees to get up with his wings and to hear the bell ring. in heaven when he gets his wings. And I will tell you tonight, there's nothing like the celebration that rings in heaven when the lost sheep comes home. That's right. When the lost coin is found, and when the lost son is embraced by his father. Henry Nouwen wrote in his book, The Return of the Prodigal Son, "Here is the God I want to believe in. A Father who from the beginning of creation has stretched out his arms in merciful blessing, never forcing himself on anyone, but always waiting, never letting his arms drop down in despair, but always hoping that his children will return, so that he can speak words of love to them and let his tired arms rest on their shoulders." Welcome home. Welcome home. So, forgiveness that frees. 3 dimensions. 1, we can gain the forgiveness of God. As you look at Psalm 51, it is David's prayer for forgiveness over and over. Please, God, forgive me my iniquities, my sinfulness. And then you read Psalm 32, which is David's prayer of thanksgiving, that he has been forgiven. God's love is without limit. God's grace has no boundaries. God's waiting arms are stretched to you tonight. Secondly, we need to forgive each other. We need to be willing to forgive those who have offended us, hurt our feelings. We don't need to nurse a grudge. There's some folks who just keep alive that kind of insidious eating away of their spiritual lives because they bear grudges and continue to work at keeping it alive like burning fire in their souls. There's a need to forgive, as we also need forgiveness from others. Lord Jesus in his model prayer said, "And forgive us our trespasses, to the extent that we are willing to forgive those who trespass against us." What a measure. Wow, what a measure. So we forgive each other. Amen. In the communion of the saints, we forgive each other. I've never known any more serious breach in fellowship than sometimes occurs in churches, where the community finds itself fractured and divided. There's a time for forgiveness, and how grateful I am for the sense of unity in this church, and the sense of community in this church. Forgiveness of one another. Then there's also the third dimension, and of these 3, this is the hardest. We need to forgive ourselves. If we do not forgive ourselves, then we say we're larger than God, because God is willing to forgive us. We need to forgive ourselves. Yeah. Well, look over your shoulder for a quick minute, again, at the story. You see, when you look at this parable, in the beginning, the son said, "I'm going to be more than God wants me to be, that the Father wants me to be." And then he came to say, "I'm going to be less than the Father wants me to be. Make me as a servant." Then when he came home, his father said to him, "Son, be all that I want you to be." And that's what we're calling you tonight to be. All that he wants you to be. So we come to look at forgiveness that frees. And we come to look at the prospects and the possibilities of coming home to God. Max Lucado is one of my favorite authors. He's not a Baptist, but he ought to be. He writes like a Baptist, and I enjoy reading what he writes, reading everything he's written. He has a book entitled The Applause of Heaven. And in that book, he sums up what the prodigal son received from the loving Father, as we will receive it from our Lord. This is what he says. "You'll be home soon. You may not have noticed it, but you are closer to home than ever before. Each moment is a step taken. Each breath is a page turned. Each day is a mile mark. Each day is a mile march, a mountain climb. You're closer to home than you've ever been. Before you know it, your appointed arrival time will come. You'll ascend the ramp and enter the city of God. You'll see faces that are waiting for you. You'll hear your name spoken by those who love you. And maybe, just maybe, in the back, behind the crowd, the one who would rather die than live without you will remove his nail-pierced hands from his heavenly robe and applause.